Exploring checks. So before you can write a check, you must have an account. So you can't write someone a check unless you have a checking account. You might have a bank account, like a savings account, but it has to be specifically a checking account. It says you may then write checks for the amount as long as you have enough money in your account. So if I only have $100 in my account, I cannot write a check for $200, for instance. Checks are also usually valid for 6 months. So if someone writes you a check, you have 6 months to cash it. After that, they're considered stale dated. And if you go to the bank, let's say at 7 months, they won't cash the check anymore. To cash your check, the person who is issued must sign the back of the check to prove that they are the person the check is issued. This is called endorsing the check. So for Christmas, my aunt sent me a check, for a present because I didn't get to see her. And basically, in order for me to cash it, I needed to sign the back, and that's called endorsing. All right, so here's a little bit of a match game that we're going to play. And the answers are already here, but hopefully you're trying this on your own first of all. So a stale dated check is checks dated 6 months or older. Cash your check means receive cash from a financial institution in exchange for the check. So if you go to the bank and you hand them the check, they will give you the amount of money on the check. Now, sometimes they might put a hold on it. And what that means is the bank wants to make sure that, whoever wrote the check has enough money to cover it. And they may say, all right, you can't get the money for 3 days or 4 days until we know that the check is cleared. So a check is basically a piece of paper, looks similar to this down here, that you can give someone in exchange for goods or services. Endorsing means signing the back of the check to prove that you're the person who the check is issued to. All right, so it says answer the questions below about this check. So it says, whom is the check written? So when we look here, it's paid to the order of the Canadian Heart Foundation. On what day was it written? Well, it was written June 23, 2001. It says how much is donated to the Canadian Heart Foundation. When I look, it's $25. Who wrote the check? If you look at the top, a lot of times in the top left-hand corner is the person's name. And in this case here, it's Myra Bolton. Where does it indicate the name of the issuer of the check? And it will be in the upper left-hand corner. Until what date is the check valid till? Well, if we start at June 23rd, 2001, 6 months later would be December 23rd, 2001. It says, in what financial institution does Myra have her account? Well, when I look over here, okay, I can actually see the name of the bank. It says Bank of Moose Jaw. So that information is actually on the check as well. And the last question says, what is Myra's account number? And normally at the bottom, we see the account number, and it's right there. It's 111332132. Number 3, explain why you think the amount of the check is written in numerals and in words. Well, sometimes people's writing is hard to read, and if you have it in 2 different places, it's to make sure that the amount is clear. Why does the name of the issuer on the check appear in printed and written form? Well, again, signatures tend to be very, very sloppy, where if it's printed, it's easy to read. So in case the signature is not readable. All right, question number 4. You're going to do this activity here where it says fill out the check below by entering the following information. So I've done it for me, but I want you to do it for you. So today's date. Well, the date I filmed this was March 24th, 2001. Your name and address. And so you would put your name and address in the top. So it'll be L. Murnick. And I live at, let's just make something up, 555 School Street. In Strathroy. Don't actually live there, but we're just making it up. All right. and then a person or place to whom you choose to issue the check. So let's say I'm writing this check to Holy Cross Secondary School. The amount you wish to give in numerals and in words. So it's $25.50. So here I put $25.50. Then I write out 25. The 50 cents goes right beside this little 100 here. Now I've put little lines in there because you don't want someone else to come by and actually write down $2,500 or $25,000. You don't want to leave any blank space in there. A reference about what the check is for. So all checks have this little line here, and that's so that what happens is the school's going to cash this check, and then when I look at my bank statement, I can click on it and actually see the check. And it's a reminder to me saying, oh, it was that mathlete shirt that I purchased, and then I sign it over here on the side. When someone signs the back of a check, they're agreeing to give the amount of money on that check over to a third party. This is called endorsement. Can you think of any reasons why check endorsement is necessary? Well, basically, it's to make sure that the check was not stolen. All right, question number 6. It says practice writing out the following amounts. So if this is the amount on the check, you would just have to write out 10, would just simply be $10. $18.50, so you would write down $18, and then where they have that little 100, that's where you put the change, the 50 cents. 139, so it'd be $130.39. So $130 and then 39 cents on the side. $200.75, you would just write down $200. The 70 cents goes off to the side. Now this is a big one. I almost ran out of room. So when you have a large amount, you have to remember to write small. So $1,250.20. So $1,250.20. So the cents always go over that 100 slash thing. You're not too worried about the cents. Next, it says, describe the advantages of using checks over other forms of payment. Well, for instance, my kids, if they had a field trip, instead of me sending cash with them to school, what I can do is just write a check. That way, if they lose it, no one else can cash it. Only the school can actually cash it. There's other reasons to write a check. One, so you don't have to carry cash around is another one. You could also write something called post-dated checks, where I write a whole bunch of checks. Say if I'm renting an apartment, I just give it to the landlord once a year with a date of the 1st of every month. So one would be for January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, etc. That way I don't have to keep writing, giving him money every single month. He just keeps them, and every month he'll deposit those checks. Describe a disadvantage of using checks over other forms of payment. Well, some places don't accept checks, and this is always changing. And I find fewer and fewer places are accepting checks these days. I remember years ago, my mom would even write checks in the grocery store to pay for the groceries, and you can't do that anymore. Also, sometimes a hold is placed on checks. So if you don't have a lot of money in your bank account, the bank's always worried that you're going to cash a check and then it's going to bounce, and they're going to be out of the money. So what they'll say is, all right, the money won't go into your account for about 3 or 4 days, just to make sure the check is clear, that we can get the money out of the other person's bank account. It says, how might you protect yourself from check fraud? Well, the biggest thing is only endorse a check in front of a teller. Never ever write, sign the back of a check before you get to the bank, because if something happens, you misplace it, if it's signed, anyone can cash it.